This is the three circles approach to learning any language in far less time than any other methods. And in this video, I'm going to explain why most people who try and learn all the language at once take far longer to see any progress and are much more likely to give up. And I'll explain how this method can help you learn a language extremely quickly. My name is James. I'm a native English speaker. I can also speak Spanish and Italian, and I've got 12 years of language learning experience. So first, we start with the inner circle here. Learn one scenario at a time. Once you get good at one scenario, and that could be, for example, a scenario like you're asking for directions in a city, or you're in a restaurant having a meal and you're speaking with the waiter, or it could be you're introducing yourself. Basically, a dialogue where you might be in a situation and you want to be able to communicate well with native speakers in that situation. And by focusing on one scenario at a time, the benefit of this is that you're not learning stuff that you don't need to know. So if you care about learning language for shopping, you might be in a foreign country and you want to go to a supermarket or a market and ask, how much is this? Can I get a discount? It's too expensive. Things like that. You're not learning things like family members or other random objects that aren't relevant for you in that scenario. That means that you can get good at that scenario really quickly because you've got a fraction of language to learn. And the best way to start is using ready-made phrases. So, how much is this? That's too expensive. Where can I find XYZ items? There are a few examples, but what it means is you're not focusing on the grammar because it's already made for you. All you have to do is remember that sentence or phrase, say it, you get a positive reply from a native speaker, then obviously you have to understand what's being said back to you. But if you've memorized the phrases, you could even use ChatGPT to make a script for you on what you should expect when going shopping and what to expect back from the native speaker in your target language. And this can be a bit overwhelming. So if at this point you need a bit of extra help, I have got a few links below. Some are paid, some are free, but they all help you towards your language goals. So start with that scenario, get good at it, and then practice it with native speakers. Now you might not be living in the country where it's spoken, but you've got the internet. You can do an online language exchange with someone for free. For example, half an hour you teaching them English, half an hour you practicing Spanish or your target language with them. You can, for example, do role play. Ask them at the start, look, can we pretend we're in a supermarket or in a market and you're selling something, I'm buying from you, and we go through this script. And this is super fast because you're not trying to learn the whole language at once. You're just focusing on one subset or one scenario, if you like, of that language. So you cut out 95% of what you don't need at this moment. But the benefit of that is you can start practicing straight away and it gives you confidence. Then the next stage is the multiple scenarios. So once you've cracked one scenario or got really confident at speaking that, move on to another one. Now the question is, which one do you go on to? Well, it matters what interests you the most. For example, if you like traveling or exploring different cities, asking for directions could be really good next one. And it's same again for this one. Find a list of phrases that are useful in your scenario, both questions and answers and what you could expect to say back, but use ready-made phrases to start with. And again, start practicing it straight away with the native speaker. You could even read it from a script on your phone, maybe ChatGPT gives you a few ideas. And then if you've got a language partner on a video call with a native speaker in a language you're learning, then say to them, look, I've got a few phrases here, a few words and phrases. Can I practice speaking with you in this? I don't really know what it means, but if you understand it, reply back to me or give me advice on how I can improve. And that way, again, you're onto your second or third scenario and you're practicing it with a native speaker in real life. And it's super practical as well because they're phrases and scenarios that you would actually find useful if you move to a different country or if you want to just have a conversation with a native speaker. Also, it's worth mentioning that as you go from one scenario to two scenarios to three and multiple, there's going to be a lot of words that you reuse between them. So that will mean that in your mind, the language is getting stronger. And if speaking with native speakers is something that you struggle with, I actually offer one-to-one support on how to speak more comfortably with native speakers in your target language. There's a link below. And finally, the final bit of the circle is the outer circle, and that's everything else. So once you've got really good at a few different scenarios, then you can start perfecting your language skills. And that means that you've spent less time trying to learn the whole language, and you're also learning it one chunk at a time, so it's less of a mountain to climb mentally. And when I say everything else, I mean that at this point you'll be able to have conversations naturally with native speakers in a range of different scenarios you've not even practiced learning at the start. So you might find that you're out and about and someone asks you something for directions, or someone asks you something about what's a good cinema to go to or something, and you can respond to them because you already know the vocabulary that you've used and learned from learning previous scenarios, even if you've not directly learned this scenario that you're talking about. But that is it for today, and YouTube is really good at recommending what video it thinks you should watch to get closer to your language goals, and click here to continue. See you later.